Along the river Saraswati, Satgaon, closer to Hooghly, used to be the most important port in Bengal till the mid-16th century. Bengal had trade contacts with Burma, the Malay Peninsula and Sumatra. Drying up of river Saraswati made navigation of larger vessels to Satgaon very difficult. Satgaon lost its prominence. And Hooghly emerged as the principal port of Bengal. The story of European trade in Bengal started with the Portuguese. Their first factory was established in 1580 at Hooghly. Subsequently, more factories were set up at Bengal and Chinsura, nearer Hooghly. We are now at Hooghly, and this is the place which once Portuguese merchants and ships dominated. Portuguese dominance in Hooghly came to end in 1632. The Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, being fed up with the lawless behavior of the Portuguese, launched an attack on them. Hooghly was captured. The Portuguese were defeated and taken to Agra as prisoners of war. Later on, they were allowed to return to Hooghly. But the Portuguese lost their monopoly of trade over Hooghly. The church, established in 1599, is still there to remind the presence of the Portuguese merchants and their activities in Hooghly. The Dutch followed the Portuguese. In 1635, the first Dutch factory was established in Hooghly. From Hooghly they spread to Chinsura, Qasim Bazar and Dhaka. In Qasim Bazar, the Dutch cemetery tells the presence of the Dutch merchants there. Even today, the cemetery carries various myths among the local population about the Dutch trade. Till 1650s, the Dutch dominated the Bengal trade. After that, they lost the Bengal trade to the English. In Bengal, the English first established their factory at Hooghly in 1651. From Hooghly they moved on to Kolkata. In 1690, Kolkata was established as the new trade center of the English. Kolkata was much nearer to the sea. Free from the operations of the European rivals, and also far off from the control of the Bengal Nawabs. In 1717, armed with the Mughal Emperor Farrukh Siyar's firman, the English East India Company virtually monopolized the trade and commerce of Bengal. We are now moving towards Chandannagar, the French colony, situated on the side of the river Hooghly. Efforts of the French to establish contact with Bengal started from 1670s, and in the 1690s they were allowed to build houses and factories at Chandannagar. Walking along the streets of Chandannagar, we find a number of buildings built by the French in the 19th century. These historical buildings are till today carrying the legacy of the French rule over Chandannagar. In the face of stiff competition with the English, they failed to expand their trade in Bengal. They were primarily confined to Chandannagar. The Danes also tried to build a factory on the banks of the Hooghly. They were allowed to establish factory at Serampore only in 1755. The Danes also could not expand beyond Serampore. The Danish legacy at Serampore is survived through many historical buildings. The Danish legacy at Serampore is survived through many historical buildings. There is a famous Oriental scholar, William Carey, who made Serampore a great center of learning. Thus, starting from the 16th century with the Portuguese till the mid-18th century, when the English East India Company was able to establish its exclusive control over the Bengal trade, we find that various European companies were in the run for making fortunes by controlling the Bengal trade. The rise of the English trade led to the emergence of Kolkata as the center of major British trading activity. New port, new market, new buildings all speak about the growing importance of Kolkata as a hub of British trade and commerce in Bengal. The growing commercial importance of Bengal in the eyes of the Europeans was primarily because of availability of huge agricultural resources. Bengal was known to others as the food granary of the subcontinent. Besides rice, sugar, betel nut and jute were the most important agricultural commodities. All these were very soon replaced by cotton and silk, which were in great demand in the European market. Kazim Bazar was known as the silk emporium of Bengal. All these goods used to be collected from different parts of Bengal and then through Hooghly and Kolkata were shipped to other countries. How then was this trade organized? The European companies found it difficult to do business without agents and dallals who knew the local market well and could assess the dependability of the merchants. These brokers operated between the growers and the exporters. Local agents worked through smaller agents and advanced money to them in order to obtain exclusive purchasing rights of a particular product. This was known as the system of dadan or investment. The other way of reaching to the actual cultivator was through paikars or middlemen. Paikars procured the goods from weekly markets, the hats, and then they took these to the main markets. There the agents of the companies procured the merchandise. Participation of the local traders was not only as agents or paikars, they were independent local merchants also, like the house of Jagat Seths, Omi Chand, etc. Interestingly, growth and decline of trade in Bengal was very much linked with the uncertainty of the course of the Ganges and its tributaries. The silting up of the riverbeds made navigation difficult for larger vessels. Seeing the river Hooghly today, it is difficult to imagine that once large ships from so many countries frequented the port of Hooghly. Even the Kolkata port, which replaced Hooghly as the major port during the British time, today no longer enjoys that importance. Now Haldia, which is far away from Kolkata, has taken the place of Kolkata as the major port. So, it was the river which basically decided the course of the trade in the past and to some extent in the present.